There's a specific hour where the day hasn't quite let go yet, but the night hasn't fully arrived either. Some in between blue. I used to rush through it, barely noticed it happening. Now I sit outside just to watch the color change slowly. It's not day, it's not night, it's just this brief negotiation between two things that both know one of them has to win eventually. I love this hour more than I love the obvious ones. The sunrise everyone photographs, the sunset everyone chases. This quieter, harder to name, less celebrated stretch of time feels more honest somehow, less performed, more like actual transition. Grief felt like that for a long time, neither one thing nor the other. Not fully devastated anymore, not fully okay yet either. Everyone wanted me in one category, sad or healed, pick one. But I lived in the dusk of it for longer than anyone was comfortable with. I stopped apologizing for that in-between eventually. Stopped rushing myself toward whichever ending everyone preferred. Everyone chases this quieter, harder to name, less celebrated stretch of time feels more honest somehow, less performed, more like actual transition. I think most of life actually happens in this kind of light, not the dramatic extremes, just the blurry, uncertain middle parts. Nobody makes art about the specific color of almost evening, but I think it might be the truest hour of the whole day. I've learned to trust the in-between now, in every form it takes. Not fully anything yet, not required to be, not rushed toward resolution. Some of the most important growing happens exactly here, in this soft, undramatic, patiently shifting kind of light. Maybe I don't need everything to be clearly one thing or another. Maybe the blur is allowed to just be its own complete category. Dust doesn't apologize for not being day or night, just is. And I'm learning to let my own transitions exist that way too. I love this hour more than I love the obvious ones. The sunrise everyone photographs, the sunset everyone chases. This quieter, harder to name, less celebrated stretch of time turned out to be the one that taught me the most patiently, honestly. The sky's doing it again right now, neither one thing nor the other. And for once I'm not rushing toward either side of it.
Nobody farms this land, nobody's tried to tame it in centuries. Just wild grass and low shrubs stretching out rough and completely unmanaged. I used to think untamed and neglected meant something that failed to happen. This place taught me untamed could just mean honest, could mean exactly itself. Everywhere else I live required me to be cultivated, kept presentable. Out here nothing's expected to look like anything other than what it actually is. I come here to remember what I look like without any managing. Rough around the edges, a little wild, never fully domesticated by anyone. I spent years trying to be tended, trying to be someone's careful garden. Turns out I was always more like this, unbothered, thriving without permission. People used to tell me I needed softening, needed to be less myself, less blunt, less strange, less whatever it was that made me hard to categorize. I tried for a while, tried to grow into something more acceptable. Never quite took the way this land never quite takes to cultivation either. I stopped apologizing for the parts of me that wouldn't be tamed. Eventually started thinking of them the way I think of this place, honest instead of failed. I come here to remember what I look like without any managing. Rough around the edges, a little wild, never fully domesticated by anyone. I spent years trying to be tended, trying to be someone's careful garden. Turns out I was always more like this, unbothered, thriving without permission. Someone loved me once, who tried to cultivate me anyway. Gently, patiently, I appreciated the effort, but never actually became what they were hoping for. I don't think that was a failure on either of our parts. Honestly, some things just aren't meant to be gardens, no matter how carefully you try. I found someone eventually who didn't need me tamed to love me completely, who liked the unmanaged parts, the parts that never fully domesticated, that felt like coming home in a way cultivation never quite managed to. Finally being loved exactly as wild and unmanicured as I actually am. Maybe I spent too long thinking I needed fixing, needed careful tending, when actually I just needed someone who understood terrain like this exists. Some ground is just meant to stay rough, stay unmanaged, stay exactly itself. And the right person doesn't try to change that, just learns to love the landscape. I come here to remember what I look like without any managing. Rough around the edges, a little wild, never fully domesticated by anyone. I spent years trying to be tended, trying to be someone's careful garden. And I finally stopped, finally let myself just be this, exactly as I am. The wind's rough out here today, nothing soft about it at all. And for the first time in a long time, I don't feel the need to apologize for that.
There's a shape behind the curtain, not a threat, just something near, like a thought I haven't finished, like a name I'm scared to hear. It's been following since autumn, patient, quiet, taking time not to hurt me, just to tell me something's shifting, something's mine. I keep looking over shoulders at a feeling, not a face, something building in the distance, something closing up the space. Come closer, then don't hover, say the thing you came to say. I've been running from a shadow that was only asking me to stay. Maybe it's not an ending looming, maybe it's a door. Maybe I've been scared of something that was mine all along, and more. layers, but this one's built from everything I never said. From all our years, the thread pulls tighter every day, weaving something I can't see. And I don't know if it's a warning or the shape of who I'll be. I keep looking over shoulders at a feeling, not a face. Something building in the distance, something closing up the space. Come closer, then don't hover, say the thing you came to say. I've been running from a shadow that was only asking me to stay. Maybe it's not an ending looming, maybe it's a door. Maybe I've been scared of something that was mine all along, and more. So I'll stop and turn around now, face whatever's standing there. And if it's grief, I'll hold it. If it's you, I'll comb your hair the way I used to when the nights felt heavier than the days. Whatever's weaving in the dark, I'm done running from its shape. Come closer, then don't hover, say the thing you came to say. I've been running from a shadow that was only asking me to stay. Maybe it's not an ending looming, maybe it's a door. Maybe I've been scared of something that was mine all along, and more. Closer now, no more running. Whatever this is, I'm ready for it. The windows rattle like they're scared, the trees are bending like they're praying, and I'm standing at the door listening to what the sky is saying. It sounds like every word we didn't say. It sounds like doors we didn't close. It sounds like everything came loose the night you decided to go. I used to think that I was steady, built on something like stone, but it turns out I was leaning on a warmth I called my own. So let it howl, let it tear, let it strip the leaves off every tree. I got nothing left to lose that this wind hasn't taken from me. Blow through me if you have to, I won't brace, I won't hide. Maybe I need something violent to match what's stuck inside. The power's out on half the street, the candles flicker, barely stand. And I keep thinking of the way you used to hold my hand. When storms like this would scare me back, we were something whole. Now I sit here with the thunder like it's the only thing I know. I used to think that I was steady, built on something like stone, but it turns out I was leaning on a warmth I called my own. So let it howl, let it tear, let it strip the leaves off every tree. I got nothing left to lose that this wind hasn't taken from me. Blow through me if you have to, I won't brace, I won't hide. Maybe I need something violent to match what's stuck inside. And when the morning finally comes and the branches litter every yard, I'll walk outside and see the damage and realize it isn't that hard to build again from what fell down, to plant a tree that bends but stays. Maybe the strongest thing isn't stillness, maybe it's surviving stormy days. So let it howl, let it tear, let it strip the leaves off every tree. I've got nothing left to lose that this wind hasn't taken from me. Blow through me if you have to, I won't brace, I won't hide. Maybe I need something violent to match what's stuck inside. Let it blow, let it go, I'm still standing even so. The room still holds the shape of you, a coat left hanging on the door. I traced the dust across the sill where sunlight used to touch the floor. I didn't blow the candle out, I just forgot to watch it burn. And somewhere in that quiet loss, I lost the will to make it turn. Maybe warmth was never meant to stay. Maybe love just learns to fade this way. But even ash remembers fire, even silence hums desire. So I'll keep this low and glowing, not enough to light the dark, just enough to know I'm holding what was once a burning heart. Not a flame, not a memory, something caught between the two. And every night I lie here breathing what's left of loving you. You'd laugh if you could see me now, still setting 2 cups on the tray, still leaving keys beside the door in case you ever lose your way. I'm not chasing what we were, I'm not begging you to stay. I'm just learning how a heart can burn down slow instead of fast. Maybe warmth was never meant to stay. Maybe love just learns to fade this way. But even ash remembers fire, even silence hums desire. So I'll keep this low and glowing, not enough to light the dark, just enough to know I'm holding what was once a burning heart. Not a flame, not a memory, something caught between the two. And every night I lie here breathing what's left of loving you. If you came back tonight, I don't think I'd know your face in this half light, this in between, this quiet patient space. But if you ask me, are you cold, I'd tell you no, not yet. Because there's something in this dark that hasn't died, that won't forget. So I'll keep this low and glowing, not enough to light the dark, just enough to know I'm holding what was once a burning heart. Not a flame, not a memory, something caught between the two. And every night I lie here breathing what's left of loving you. Low and glowing, quiet, knowing this is how I let you go. It isn't heavy, isn't loud, just a whisper on the glass, the kind of rain that doesn't ask if you want it to pass. I watch it slide down window panes and lines that never touch the ground, and I forget which one is rain and which one's just a sound. You used to hum on days like these, some tune I never learned the words to. Now I hum it to the trees and hope it still gets through to you. Fall soft, fall slow, don't rush the gray. Let me sit inside this in-between. Not a storm, not a clear blue day, just this quiet half-lit scene. I'm not asking you to stop, I'm not asking skies to clear. Just stay long enough, small drops to prove there's something still out here. I used to run from weather like this, umbrella first before my coat. Now I let it touch my skin like reading words from a letter you wrote. There's no thunder, there's no chill, just a hush that holds me still. And maybe that's what missing is, not a flood, but this. You used to hum on days like these, some tune I never learned the words to. Now I hum it to the trees and hope it still gets through to you. Fall soft, fall slow, don't rush the gray. Let me sit inside this in-between. Not a storm, not a clear blue day, just this quiet half-lit scene. I'm not asking you to stop, I'm not asking skies to clear. Just stay long enough, small drops to prove there's something still out here. Somewhere you're standing in the same soft rain, maybe thinking of my name, maybe not, and that's alright. Some things are only mine tonight. The streetlights blur to gold clear. Fall soft, fall slow, don't rush the gray. Let me sit inside this in-between. Not a storm, not a clear blue day, just as quiet, half a scene. I'm not asking you to stop, I'm not asking skies to clear. Just stay long enough, small drops to prove there's something still out here. Soft and slow, this is how I let it go. Not all at once, just drop by drop. The city's loud, but I hear none of it. Just static underneath my ribs. Walking streets I used to know with someone else's old ad-libs that don't look up much anymore. The sky forgot to hold my name, but tonight there's something on the water that looks a little like a flame. It's small, it's far, it's barely there. Kinda light I can't explain, but I've been walking in the dark so long I know it anywhere. So I'll follow this thin light home, even if it's just a spark, even if it's just the moon reflected on the dark. I don't need the whole sky lit, I don't need the sun to stay. Just this sliver, just this bit to find my way. I used to think that hope was loud, a trumpet, not a candle's hush. But it turns out it's the quiet things that hold you when the big ones rush. No fireworks, no grand return, just a single point of light that says the world's still turning, even on the darkest night. It's small, it's far, it's barely there. A kind of light I can't explain, but I've been walking in the dark so long I know it anywhere. So I'll follow this thin light home, even if it's just a spark, even if it's just the moon reflected on the dark. I don't need the whole sky lit, I don't need the sun to stay. Just this sliver, just this bit to find my way. Maybe you're a light like this in someone else's darkest hour. Maybe I don't have to be the sun to have some kind of power. Maybe small is still enough, maybe far is still inside. Maybe I've been counting stars when I should have counted light. So I'll follow this thin light home, even if it's just a spark, even if it's just the moon reflected on the dark. I don't need the whole sky lit, I don't need the sun to stay. Just this sliver, just this bit to find my way. Just this sliver, just this bit, enough to say I'm not done with it. You had one thing you'd say, only when it was just the two of us alone. A whole private confession you never repeated in front of anyone else. Everyone else got the practice version of you, the composed, careful one. I got this other thing, this unguarded solo you saved only for me. I didn't understand at first how rare that actually was, how specific. Thought everyone got some version of your unguarded truth, not just me. You gave me the one part of yourself you never performed for anyone else. A private truth, unscripted, meant for exactly one listener, exactly me. I miss that specific voice more than I miss almost anything else about you. The one you never used in public, the one that was only ever mine to hear. I asked asked you once why you never said it in front of other people. You said some truths only make sense when there's just one person listening. I understood that eventually, understood the specific intimacy of it. Not secrecy exactly, just precision, just knowing who actually needed to hear it. I've never repeated it to anyone since, don't think I ever will. Some things are meant to stay exactly as private as they were given. You gave me the one part of yourself you never performed for anyone else. A private truth, unscripted, meant for exactly one listener. Exactly me. I miss that specific voice more than I miss almost anything else about you. The one you never used in public, the one that was only ever mine to hear. I wonder if you have a new version now, with someone else somewhere, some new private confession only they get to hear the way I used to. I hope you do, honestly hope you found someone worth that kind of unguarded truth. Even though some small part of me still wants to have been the only one. I still hear sometimes in memory exactly the way you used to say it. Your voice dropping into that specific register nobody else ever got to hear. I don't think the memory is going anywhere, don't think I want it to. It's the truest thing I have left of you, the most completely unguarded. I used to think the biggest declarations happened in front of everyone. You taught me the realest ones might actually be the private, unrepeated kind. Not performed, not for an audience, just for the one person who earned it. And I earned it once, and I still carry that unguarded voice with me. You gave me the one part of yourself you never performed for anyone else. And I don't think anyone else will ever quite hear that particular voice again. I miss that specific voice more than I miss almost anything else about you. But I'm grateful still that I got to hear it at all, even just once. I hear it sometimes still late at night, uninvited but welcome. Your unguarded voice saying the thing only I ever got to hear. My mother, Planet One, the year I was born, said it would outlive her. I didn't understand that as a child, thought all trees just lasted forever. Now I'm old enough to understand exactly what she was actually planning. A marker, a gift, something blooming long after she'd stopped being able to tend it. It blooms once a year, briefly, extravagantly, then lets everything fall. Never apologizes for how short the display is, just gives everything while it lasts. She's gone now, but the tree still blooms exactly on schedule every spring. Huge, impossible, beautiful flowers she'll never get to see again herself. I stand under it every year now, just to be close to what she planted. The one part of her still actively, physically growing, still doing something. I used to resent how briefly it bloomed, wanted it to last longer always. Now I understand that brevity was never a flaw, was always just this nature. Some things are built to give everything in one incredible short burst. Not because they're weak, just because that's the specific shape of their generosity. I think my mother was a little like that too, thinking back on her now. Brief in a lot of ways, but completely extravagantly generous while she was here. She's gone now, but the tree still blooms exactly on schedule every spring. Huge, impossible, beautiful flowers she'll never get to see again herself. I stand under it every year now, just to be close to what she planted. The one part of her still active I planted one of my own last year in a yard she never got to see. Some continuation of whatever she started, whatever she meant by planting mine. It'll take years before it blooms the way hers finally did. I know that I'm trying to learn her patience, trying to trust something I won't see finished. I bring flowers from it to her grave every spring now. When it blooms, feels right somehow. Bringing her own gift back to her completed the circle. I don't know if that's silly or if it actually means something real. Either way, I keep doing it, keep needing that specific yearly ritual. Maybe she knew exactly what she was giving me, planting that tree so early. Not just shade, not just beauty, but a returning proof every single spring that some things you plan outlive you. Keep doing exactly what you intended long after you're not around anymore to see the blooming happen. She's gone now, but the tree still blooms exactly on schedule every spring. And I stand under it every year, closer to her than almost anywhere else. Huge, impossible, beautiful flowers she'll never get to see again herself, but I see them for her every year, and that feels like enough somehow. It's blooming again right now, actually right on time, unbothered. I brought a flower to her today, the same one she gave me first. I used to sleep through it completely, never once saw it happening. Too exhausted, too checked out, too far from anything worth waking up for. Then one morning, unable to sleep anyway, I watched the whole thing unfold. And something about witnessing it start to finish changed something quiet in me. Nobody tells you the color changes that slowly, that gradually. You miss the actual transition if you weren't paying close attention. I didn't know the sky worked that hard just to arrive at ordinary blue. Didn't know something that unremarkable required that much slow, careful build-up. I started waking up on purpose after that, just to witness the process, just to remember that even the plainest days start with something quietly extraordinary. I've watched it hundreds of times since then, never quite the same twice. Some mornings dramatic, strict with color, other mornings barely noticeable at all. I stopped needing it to be beautiful every time, but still find it worth watching. The plain versions taught me something the spectacular ones never quite managed. There's a specific patience in it, a refusal to rush no matter what's waiting. The sky doesn't skip steps just because the day ahead looks difficult. I didn't know the sky worked that hard just to arrive at ordinary blue. Didn't know something that unremarkable required that much slow, careful build-up. I started waking up on purpose after that, just to witness the process, to remember that even the plainest days start with something quietly extraordinary. I bring people here now sometimes to watch it, whoever's going through something. Don't say much, just let them witness the process. Let the sky do the talking. Some of them get it immediately, some don't see the point at all, but I keep offering it anyway, hoping someone else finds what I found. I think what actually changed was learning to trust gradual things again, not needing everything to transform instantly, not needing dramatic proof of progress. The sky doesn't rush from dark to light, takes its careful, unhurried time, and maybe that's permission I needed for my own slow, unglamorous healing too. I used to think meaning had to announce itself, had to be obvious, immediate. This taught me it could just be patient, could just take exactly as long as it needs. Nothing about watching the sky change color fixes anything directly, but something about witnessing that patience helped me trust my own eventually. I didn't know the sky worked that hard just to arrive at ordinary blue, and I don't think I'll ever sleep through it carelessly again, not after learning this. I started waking up on purpose after that, just to witness the process, and every single time somehow it still quietly changes something in me. It's happening again right now, slow, patient, exactly on time. I'm watching, still grateful, still learning something from it every morning.
We built it together over one whole summer, slow and unplanned. Just wanted somewhere shaded to sit, didn't expect it to become what it became. Vines took over faster than either of us predicted, wild and thick. By the following year you could barely see the wooden frame underneath that all. I used to sit under it and think about how something so simple grew into something that completely changed the shape of the whole yard. We built something small and let it grow bigger than we planned. A little shade, a little structure, and then years of things climbing over it. I still sit under it sometimes, even though you're not here anymore. Still grateful for something we made that turned out to outlast us completely. Other people who visit always comment on how established it looks, like it's been there forever, like it was always meant to be exactly this way. I never correct them, never mention it started as just two people with some scrap wood and an afternoon, and no real plan for what it would become. I think about that a lot now, how the best things grow past your original intention. How you build something small and modest and it becomes something else entirely. We built something small and let it grow bigger than we planned. A little shade, a little structure, and then years of things climbing over it. I still sit under it sometimes, even though you're not here anymore. Still grateful for something we made that turned out to outlast us completely. Hey, I trim it myself now, alone, learned how from watching you do it back then. It's more work than I expected, more than you ever let on while you were here. I don't mind the work, honestly, it feels like a way of still tending to us, even though the relationship itself finished a long time before the plant did. Someone asked if I'd tear it down, start fresh, build something without the history. I couldn't do it, couldn't remove something that grew that beautifully from something real. It doesn't need to remind me of you specifically to be worth keeping. It's just genuinely beautiful now on its own terms, regardless of who built it. Maybe that's what lasting things actually require, some structure and then patience. You build the frame together and then let time and graft through the rest of the work. We didn't know we were building something permanent, thought it was just a summer project. Turns out some things outlast the people who started them, and that's not a sad thing. We built something small and let it grow bigger than we planned, and I still benefit from that decision years after everything else ended. I still sit under it sometimes, even though you're not here anymore. Grateful always for something we made that turned out this beautiful. The vines are thicker than ever this year, full green, completely established. Still growing, still yours in some sense, still mine to keep tending. You weren't the whole story, I understand that clearly now. Just one section of it, important, formative, but not everything. I used to think losing you meant losing the entire narrative. Now I know it just meant one part of it had finally come to its close. I couldn't see the shape of the whole book while I was still inside that section. Everything felt permanent, felt like it was the entire plot, not just a piece of it. You were a whole chapter, not the ending, not the only story. Important enough to shape everything that happened after it closed. I don't regret a single page of what we
long time stuck rereading that same chapter, unable to move forward. Kept going back to the same pages, looking for something I'd missed. Eventually I understood I wasn't gonna find anything new there. The chapter was finished. Whatever it had to teach me was already given. I turned the page eventually, slowly, reluctantly, but I did turn it. Found there was actually more story waiting, more than I expected. You were a whole chapter, not the ending, not the only story. Important enough to shape everything that happened after it closed. I don't regret a single page of what we built together. I just know now there was always more book left to read past you. The chapters after you look different because of what happened in yours. Every character I meet now gets read a little through that specific lens. That's not a bad thing necessarily, just how books actually work. Nothing exists in isolation. Every part shapes how you read what comes next. I don't know how many chapters are left, nobody ever really knows that. But I'm reading forward now, actually curious about what happens next. I used to think the story ended when you left, but that was the whole book. Turns out it was just one section, complete, meaningful, and thoroughly finished. Maybe every relationship is just a chapter, some longer, some shorter, none of them the whole story, all of them necessary to how the story reads. I used to grieve the chapters ending like they were the entire narrative dying. Now I understand endings are just how books actually move forward at all. You were a whole chapter, not the ending, not the only story. And I finally have enough distance now to read it without falling apart. I don't regret a single page of what we built together. And I'm genuinely curious now about everything still left to read. I turned another page today, actually, without looking back once. Still reading, still curious, still trusting there's more story left. There's nothing blocking the horizon out here, nothing at all. Just grass and sky meeting somewhere so far off. It feels impossible. I grew up in cities, walls close, sight lines always interrupted. The first time I saw this much open space, I actually cried a little. Nobody warned me that emptiness could feel like relief, that having nowhere to hide could feel like finally being honest. Out here, there's nothing to lean on, nothing to hide behind, just me and all this open space, asking me who I actually am. I thought I needed walls to feel protected, feel defined. Turns out I just needed room enough to finally stop pretending. The wind never really stops moving through here, constant, alive, bending every blade of grass the same direction all at once. I used to think stillness meant peace, thought quiet meant calm. This place taught me peace could also look like constant, gentle motion. I come back every few years now just to remember this feeling, this specific relief of having absolutely nowhere to hide from myself. Out here, there's nothing to lean on, nothing to hide behind, just me and all this open space, asking me who I actually am. I thought I needed walls to feel protected, feel defined. Turns out I just needed room enough to finally stop pretending. I brought someone here once, someone I loved, wanted to share this with. They found it unsettling, too much space, too much exposed, nothing. I understood their reaction, not everyone needs what I needed. Some people need walls and that's fine, we're just built differently. I live in the city again now, walls back up, sight lines interrupted, but I carry this place with me, the specific memory of open honesty. Every time life gets too crowded, too loud, too full of hiding places, I close my eyes and go back here just for a minute, just to remember. Maybe everyone needs one place like this eventually one fine, but this place taught me something walls could never teach me. The wind's still moving out there right now, whether I'm watching or not. I like knowing that, like knowing some things stay honest without an audience. My grandmother planted these trees before I was even born. Said a family needed a root somewhere specific, needed a place to return to. I used to think that was old-fashioned, unnecessary, quaint. Now I bring my own kids here, understand exactly what she meant. Every tree has a name, a story, someone who planted it on purpose. This isn't just land, it's generations standing quietly together. I didn't choose these roots, they were planted before I existed, but I've grown into them anyway, deeper every single year. This is the one place that doesn't require explanation. Just belonging, just history, just knowing exactly where I come from. I planted one of my own last spring, small, barely a sapling. Future generations won't remember me planting it, won't need to. That's not really the point. My grandmother taught me that you plant for people who'll never know your name, just your care. I bring my kids here every year, tell them the same old stories, watch them get bored halfway through the way I used to also get bored. I didn't choose these roots, they were planted before I existed, but I've grown into them anyway, deeper every single year. This is the one place that doesn't require explanation. Just belonging, just history, just knowing exactly where I come from. Someday my kids will bring their own kids here, probably tell the same stories a little differently, add their own chapters in. I like thinking about that, this slow accumulation of belonging. Built one small tree, one small story, one generation at a time. I used to want to leave this place, build somewhere entirely new. Now I understand new isn't always better than deeply, thoroughly rooted. There's a kind of peace in belonging somewhere before you even choose it, and growing up already surrounded by people who planted things for you. Maybe roots aren't about staying still, aren't about never leaving. Maybe they're just about always having somewhere solid to come back to. I've traveled plenty, built a life elsewhere, changed in 100 ways, but this grove still holds the first version of me, patiently unchanged. I didn't choose these roots, they were planted before I existed, but I've grown into them anyway, deeper every single year. This is the one place that doesn't require explanation. Just belonging, just history, just knowing exactly where I come from. The new trees, a little taller than last year, still small, still growing, still mine, still part of something bigger than me. I have a whole jar of them now, one from every place that mattered, picked up without really deciding to. Just felt right to bring one home. Nobody else would understand the specific system, the specific memory, each one attached to some ordinary moment worth more than it looks. People collect bigger things, souvenirs, photographs, proper mementos. I just have small gray rocks that mean absolutely everything to me. Nothing valuable, nothing anyone else would bother picking up, just small proof that I was somewhere, that something happened there. I could tell you the whole story behind every single one, small, told me you loved me. One from the trail where I finally decided to leave a job I hated. One from outside the hospital the day everything turned out okay. Each one holding a whole afternoon inside, something small enough to fit in my palm. I don't need the jar to remember, the memories exist either way. But there's something about holding the actual physical proof of it. Nothing valuable, nothing anyone else would bother picking up. Just small proof that I was somewhere, that something happened there. I could tell you the whole story behind every single one. Small, I have of my life. Someone asked to see the jar once, actually interested, actually curious. I spent an hour explaining rocks that look completely identical to anyone else. They didn't get bored, actually, just kept asking for the next story. And I realized the jar was never really about the rocks at all. I'll keep adding to it, probably for as long as I keep living. New places, new small stones, new stories nobody else would think to keep. It's not a valuable collection, wouldn't survive an appraisal, but it's the truest map I have of everywhere that ever actually mattered. Maybe the small worthless things are always the most honest record. Too unremarkable to fake, too plain to be performed for anyone else. That's not how this works. You collect them because something in you needed proof it was real. Nothing valuable, nothing anyone else would bother picking up. But I could tell you the whole story behind every single one. Small, unremarkable, and somehow the realest record I have of my life. And I'm still adding to it, still collecting proof that I was there. I picked up a new one today. Small, gray, unremarkable, already knows exactly which shelf it's going on when I get home. I used to think comfort had to come wrapped in words and explanations. Someone telling me it would be fine, someone fixing what was broken. You never said much, just showed up with food I didn't ask for. Set it down, sat with me, let the silence do the actual work. I kept waiting for the speech, the wisdom, the right thing to say. It never came, and somehow that was exactly what I needed instead. You didn't talk me out of the grief, didn't rush the timeline, just made sure I wasn't doing it alone. Meal after meal, week after week. I think I confused comfort with advice for most of my life, until you showed me it could just be presence, just be showing up quiet. Other people offer solutions I didn't ask for, didn't want yet. You just kept bringing casseroles, kept texting, nothing more than checking in. I never had to perform being okay around you, never had to update you. You just accepted whatever version of me showed up that particular day. I think that's the rarest kind of support, the unconditional kind. Comfort with no expectation attached, no timeline, no requirement to improve. You didn't talk me out of the grief, didn't rush the timeline, just made sure I wasn't doing it alone. Meal after meal, week after week. I think I confused comfort with advice for most of my life, until you showed me it could just be presence, just be showing up quiet. I try to do that for other people now, the food, the quiet presence. Resist the urge to fix, to advise, to rush anyone toward feeling better. It's harder than it looks, staying quiet when you wanna help loudly. But I remember exactly how much it meant when you managed it for me. Months later when I finally started doing better, you didn't take credit, just kept showing up the same way, like the routine itself was the whole point. I don't think you ever knew how much that consistency actually saved me. Some people talk about love, you just kept bringing dinner over and over. I used to think the biggest comfort had to come from the biggest gestures. You taught me it usually comes from the smallest, most repeated ones instead. Showing up again and again without needing anything back for it. That's the actual definition, I think. The one nobody teaches you properly. He didn't talk me out of the grief, didn't rush the timeline. And I'm only now starting to understand how rare that patience really was. I think I confused comfort with advice for most of my life. And you're the reason I finally learned the actual difference. I brought someone dinner last week, said almost nothing, just stayed, learned it from you. Still learning it, still grateful for the lesson. I planted the first tree the year everything fell apart, honestly. Needed something to do with my hands, needed proof that time moved forward. Nobody told me it would take years before it actually gave anything back. I just kept watering it anyway, some stubborn faith I didn't fully understand. There were seasons it looked like nothing was happening at all. No visible progress, just a small tree, unremarkable, giving no indication it was worth the patience. It took years before there was any fruit at all worth mentioning. Years of watering something that gave no evidence it was actually working. I understand now, that's just how the real lasting things grow. Slow, invisible, unrewarding for longer than feels reasonable, until suddenly it isn't. I planted more trees over the years, different varieties, different timelines. Some grew faster, gave fruit sooner, others took even longer than the first. I learned patience differently from each one. Learned every tree keeps its own schedule. Learned that comparing them to each other was never actually useful. This year finally the whole orchard actually produces something substantial. Years of unglamorous tending finally showing up as something you can hold. It took years before there was any fruit at all worth mentioning. Years of watering something that gave no evidence it was actually working. I understand now, that's just how the real lasting things grow. Slow, invisible, unrewarding for longer than feels reasonable, until suddenly it isn't. I think about the version of me who planted that first tree. Honestly, didn't know yet if any of it would work, just kept showing up anyway. I'm proud of that version, the one willing to tend something invisible, willing to trust a process that gave no proof it was actually going anywhere. People ask how long it took to build all this gesture at the full orchard. I tell them the truth, longer than felt reasonable, longer than I expected. But I don't regret a single unglamorous season of watering something empty, because none of this exists without every one of those quiet, unrewarded years. Maybe that's true of everything that actually ends up lasting eventually. The growing happens invisibly underground long before there's anything to show. I used to want proof before I commit to tending something, wanted guarantees. Now I just plant and water and trust the process, even without visible progress. It took years before there was any fruit at all worth mentioning. And I'm grateful now for every one of those quiet, unrewarded seasons. I'll understand now, that's just how the real lasting things grow. And I'm still planting, still watering, still trusting things I can't see yet. Fresh fruit on every tree this year, finally, after all that patient waiting. I picked one this morning, ate it slow, remembered exactly how long this took. There's a small cluster of trees behind the old property line. Too small to have a real name, too small for anyone else to notice. We found it by accident one summer, claimed it without discussing it. Just started going there separately until we realized we were going together. Nobody else ever showed up there, not once in all those years. Like the whole world had agreed to leave that one small patch alone for us. It wasn't much, just a handful of trees nobody else cared about, but it became the one place we could be completely, unguardedly ourselves. I've been to bigger forests since, more beautiful, more impressive. None of them ever felt as entirely ours as that small, forgotten patch that we carved something into one of the trunks. Small, embarrassing now. I checked once years later, driving past out of some old impulse. It's still there, faded, half grown over, but still legible if you look closely. Proof that something happened there that neither of us ever bothered explaining. I think about that place more than almost anywhere fancier we ever went. Maybe because it required nothing from us except just showing up together. It wasn't much, just a handful of trees nobody else cared about, but it became the one place we could be completely, unguardedly ourselves. I've been to bigger forests since, more beautiful, more impressive. None of them ever felt as entirely ours as that small, forgotten patch did. I haven't been back in years, not since that one drive-by. Some part of me wants to keep it exactly as memory instead of revisiting it. Real places change, get bulldozed, get sold, get turned into something else. I'd rather keep the version that only exists now and what I remember. Maybe everyone needs one small, unremarkable place like that eventually. Somewhere too insignificant for anyone else to claim or ruin or change. I got lucky finding mine early, got lucky it stayed ours for as long as it did. I hope you still think about it too, wherever your own life ended up going. I used to think meaningful places had to be grand, had to be chosen carefully. The little cops taught me the opposite, taught me smallness could hold everything. Oh, nobody else needed to understand why it mattered. That was never the point, it just needed to be ours, quietly, completely, for exactly as long as it lasted. It wasn't much, just a handful of trees nobody else cared about, but it became the one place we could be completely, unguardedly ourselves. I've been to bigger forests since, more beautiful, more impressive. None of them ever felt as entirely ours as that small, forgotten patch did. I still think about the carvings sometimes, fading slowly into the bark. Still there, probably still ours, even now, even after everything. I drifted through a lot of people before I found you, honestly. Never quite landing anywhere, never quite staying long in one place. I used to think that was just my personality, restless, unsettled. Didn't realize I was actually just still searching for solid ground. Every relationship before felt like open water, no edges, nothing to finally arrive at, just endless uncertain drifting. You were the place I finally stopped moving, finally landed, not because the search ended, but because I stopped needing to search. I didn't know what solid ground felt like until I found you. Now I understand what all that drifting was actually actually looking for. I kept waiting for the restlessness to come back, honestly. Kept bracing for the moment I need to keep moving again. It never came, not the way it always had before. Turns out I wasn't broken, I was just still looking for you specifically. I used to think stillness meant something was wrong, meant stagnation. You taught me it could just mean arrival, mean finally being done searching. You were the place I finally stopped moving, finally landed. Not because the search ended, but because I stopped needing to search. I didn't know what solid ground felt like until I found you. Now I understand what all that drifting was actually looking for. I don't take the stillness for granted, remember the drifting too well. Know exactly what it felt like to never quite arrive anywhere. So every ordinary day we get feels like something worth noticing. Not because it's exciting, just because it's finally blessedly solid. I used to envy people who found this early, effortlessly. Now I think maybe the drifting made the arriving mean more. I don't need to have found you sooner to be grateful now. I just need to keep choosing to stay every day on purpose. I spent years thinking restlessness was just who I was permanently. Turns out I just hadn't found the right place to finally set down. You gave me somewhere to stop, somewhere worth staying for. And I don't think I'll ever take that kind of solid ground for granted again. You were the place I finally stopped moving, finally landed. And every year since I'm more certain that landing was right. I didn't know what solid ground felt like until I found you. And now I understand what all that drifting was actually looking for. I'm not drifting anymore, haven't been in a long while. Still here, still choosing this, still grateful for finally arriving.
I held it together for months, kept everything managed, kept everything dry. Smiled through the funeral, smiled through the calls, checking in on me. Then one random Tuesday, nothing special about the day at all. Everything I've been holding back just broke open all at once, no warning. I wasn't even thinking about anything specific when it happened. Just standing in the kitchen and suddenly there was nowhere left to hide it. It came down all at once, everything I've been carefully rationing. Weeks of small controlled tears finally giving way to something enormous. I let it happen this time, didn't try to stop it, didn't apologize. Just let myself get completely soaked in everything I've been avoiding for so long. I used to think falling apart meant weakness, meant losing control badly. Now I think I needed that flood more than I needed all the careful holding. Something about finally letting it all come down at once, unfiltered. Clear something out that months of careful measured grief never quite reached. I felt lighter after exhausted, but lighter, like something had actually drained. Instead of just sitting there accumulating, waiting for permission to release. It came down all at once, everything I've been carefully rationing. Weeks of small controlled tears finally giving way to something enormous. I let it happen this time, didn't try to stop it, didn't apologize. Just let myself get completely soaked in everything I've been avoiding for so long. I don't schedule it, can't predict when the next one's going to hit. Just know now not to fight it when it comes, not to rush myself out of it. It passes eventually, they always do, no matter how enormous they feel. And something usually feels a little clearer, a little more possible after. I used to be scared of people seeing it happen, scared of the mess of it. Now I let it happen in front of the people who've earned that kind of trust. It's not weakness, I finally believe that it's just release, just necessary. Water has to come down eventually, no matter how long you try to hold the sky back. Maybe controlled grief isn't actually healthier, just quieter, just more convenient. Maybe some things need the full uncontrolled flood to actually move through you completely. I spent so long trying to manage it into something smaller, more presentable. Turns out the whole point was letting it be as big as it actually needed to be. It came down all at once, everything I've been carefully rationing, and I don't regret letting it. Don't wish I kept holding it back any longer. I let it happen this time, didn't try to stop it, didn't apologize. It's something in me finally actually started moving forward after. The sky's clear again today, for now until the next one builds up. And I'm not scared of it anymore, not the way I used to be.
I hadn't wanted to make anything in over a year. Just went through motions, function without any actual fire behind it. Then you asked to see something I'd written years ago, and something small caught unexpected in a place I thought had gone cold. I didn't ask you to do that, didn't even know I needed it. You just handed me back a version of myself I stopped believing existed. You didn't build a fire, I wanna be clear about that. You just handed me the match I'd forgotten I was still holding. Something in me started burning again after a long quiet freeze. Not because of anything dramatic, just because someone finally asked. I made something small that week, first time in longer than I'd admit. Nothing good probably, but it existed, and that felt enormous. You didn't make a big deal of it, didn't push for more right away. Just let the small flame be small, let it build at its own pace. I think that's what actually worked, the lack of pressure, just space to feel something again without needing to perform it. You didn't build the fire, I wanna be clear about that. You just handed me the match I'd forgotten I was still holding. Something in me started burning again after a long quiet freeze. Not because of anything dramatic, just because someone finally asked. Months later I'm making things regularly again, imperfectly, still slow some days, still doubt myself constantly, but it's there. I don't know if I'd have found my way back without that one question, that one small, unglamorous, completely unplanned invitation. I try to do that for other people now, ask the small questions, not push, just offer the match, let them decide when to strike it. I think everyone's carrying some cold, dormant thing they miss. Sometimes all it takes is someone caring enough to ask about it. I used to think passion either existed or it didn't permanently. You taught me you can go dormant and still be relit, still be recovered. Not through force, not through pressure, just through someone noticing that the wood was still there, just waiting for a reason to catch you. You didn't build the fire, I wanna be clear about that. You just handed me the match I'd forgotten I was still holding. Something in me started burning again after a long quiet freeze, and I'm still burning, actually, still grateful, still making things. I made something today, small, imperfect, mine, still catching, still building, still somehow finally alive again. I came into this armored, honestly expecting to have to fight. Kept my walls up out of habit, out of every relationship before this. You never tried to break through them, never forced anything, just stayed patient outside the walls until I got tired of holding them up myself. Nobody had ever never just waited before. Always try to push or pull. You just sat there consistent until I finally let something down on my own. You didn't soften me on purpose, didn't have a strategy for it. You just loved me consistently until the garden stopped feeling necessary. I used to think strength meant staying hard no matter what. You taught me it takes more strength to finally let something give. I tested you constantly at first, waited for you to prove me right, waited for the moment you turned out to be like everyone before you. You never did, just kept showing up steady, kept choosing patience, and eventually I ran out of reasons to keep expecting the worst. I didn't decide to soften, it just happened gradually without ceremony. One day I noticed my shoulders weren't as tense as they used to be. You didn't soften me on purpose, didn't have a strategy for it. You just loved me consistently until the garden stopped feeling necessary. I used to think strength meant staying hard no matter what. You taught me it takes more strength to finally let something give. I'm not fully soft now, still catch myself bracing sometimes. Old habits don't disappear completely just because they're no longer needed. But I'm different than I was before, you noticeably permanently carrying less armor into every relationship I've had since. I hope I get to thank you for that properly someday if I ever see you. Not for the relationship itself, just for the specific gift of this. Teaching my body it was allowed to stop bracing for impact. Teaching me that safety could actually be trusted. Eventually, slowly, I used to think people who stayed soft were naive, unprepared. You taught me the opposite might actually be true, might be brave. Choosing to soften after being hurt takes more courage than staying hard. And I'm grateful you gave me a safe enough place to finally try it. You didn't soften me on purpose, didn't have a strategy for it. And I don't think you ever knew how much that patient consistency mattered. I used to think strength meant staying hard no matter what. And now I know real strength was always in the letting go. My shoulders aren't tense right now, actually. For once, still learning, still practicing, but genuinely, finally, softer. You never said the big words much, never made grand declarations, but you bring me coffee exactly how I like it without ever having to ask. You saved me the last bite even when you clearly wanted it yourself. Small things, constant things, said in a language that never used actual words. I used to want the big speeches, the dramatic proof, the loud proclamations. Took me a while to understand you were saying it constantly, just quietly. You love me in gestures instead of speeches, in actions instead of declarations. A hand on my back, a coffee made right, a seat say before I even arrived. I stopped needing the big words once I learned to read the small ones. Turns out you've been saying it constantly in a language I just had to learn. I cataloged them out, looking back, all the small unremarkable moments. The specific way you tucked the blanket around me if I fell asleep on the couch. None of it will make a good story if I try to tell someone about it, but stacked together all those tiny gestures built something enormous, undeniable. I think I understand love differently now because of how you gave it. Not as one big moment, but as thousands of small, easily overlooked ones. You love me in gestures instead of speeches, in actions instead of declarations. A hand on my back, a coffee made right, a seat say before I even arrived. I stopped needing the big words once I learned to read the small ones. Turns out you've been saying it constantly in a language I just had to learn. I try to love people that way now, in the small consistent gestures. Less interested in the grand romantic speech, more interested in the daily proof. It's a quieter kind of love, harder to notice from the outside. more sustainable version. I hope whoever loves you next understands the language you're speaking. Hope they don't wait for the big words the way I almost did at first. Hope they notice the coffee, the safe seat, the folded blanket, and understand exactly what all of it has actually been saying the whole time. I used to measure love by volume, by how loudly someone declared it. You taught me the quiet, constant version might actually run deeper. Not because it's less passionate, just because it doesn't need an audience. Just needs to keep showing up, small and steady, every single ordinary day. Love me in gestures instead of speeches, and actions instead of declarations. And I finally learned to hear it, finally learned to read what you were saying. Stop needing the big words once I learned to read the small ones. And I carry that old language forward now into everyone I try to love. I made someone's coffee exactly right this morning without being asked. Small, quiet, and somehow the truest thing I know how to say. Everyone told me to go the easier way, avoid the direct conflict entirely, sidestep it, let time handle it, don't walk straight into something that difficult. I tried that for a while, tried avoiding, tried letting it resolve on its own. It never did, just sat there getting harder the longer I refused to face it. Eventually I got tired of circling around it, tired of the exhausting avoidance, turned and walked straight into the hardest conversation I've been putting off. I stopped taking the easier route, stopped letting the wind push me sideways, turned to face it directly, walked straight into whatever was waiting there. It was harder, obviously, resistance the whole way, nothing about it comfortable, but I got somewhere real, finally, instead of drifting endlessly around the problem. The conversation itself wasn't easy, said things I'd avoided saying for years, heard things back I wasn't sure I was ready to hear, but needed to anyway. It would have been simpler to keep avoiding it, keep taking the comfortable direction, but comfortable was just another word for stuck, another word for going nowhere. I felt every bit of resistance the whole way through that conversation, and I kept going anyway, because avoiding it wasn't actually protecting anyone. I stopped taking the easier route, stopped letting the wind push me sideways, turned to face it directly, walked straight into whatever was waiting there. It was harder, obviously, resistance the whole way, nothing about it comfortable, but I got somewhere real, finally, instead of drifting endlessly around the problem. I do this more now, actually choose the harder direction when it matters. Not because I enjoy the difficulty, just because I trust what's usually on the other side. The easy path rarely takes you anywhere you actually needed to go. I learned that the hard way, after years of drifting comfortably nowhere useful. It doesn't get easier exactly, facing into the resistance directly like that, but I get faster at it, more willing, less scared of the immediate discomfort. I think that's the actual skill, not eliminating the difficulty, just building tolerance for it. Enough tolerance to keep walking straight into things worth actually reaching. I used to think the smoothest path was automatically the right one. Learned eventually that smooth just meant unchallenged, meant untested, meant avoiding growth. The real progress always seemed to require walking directly into resistance, choosing the harder direction on purpose, trusting there was something worth it there. I stopped taking the easier route, stopped letting the wind push me sideways, turned to face it directly, walked straight into whatever was waiting there. It was harder, obviously, resistance the whole way, nothing about it comfortable, but I got somewhere real, finally, and I choose that difficulty again. There's another hard conversation already walking straight into it, unafraid. You never just one thing, never one simple, easy melody to follow. Loud sometimes, quiet other times, a dozen different sections in one person. I used to want you simpler, wanted one clear tune I could easily. Took me years to appreciate the whole complicated arrangement of you. Simple people are easier to love quickly, easier to understand immediately. You took longer, required more attention, more patience, more actual listening. I fell in love with every different movement, not just the easy parts, the difficult sections too, the ones that took real effort to actually understand. I don't want the simple version now, not after knowing this complicated one. I want every layer, every shift, every part of you that isn't easy to summarize. Some days you were all quiet, melancholy, other days completely triumphant. I learned to move with whichever section was actually playing that particular day. It required more of me than loving someone simpler would have required, but simple never would have given me this much to actually appreciate. I used to get frustrated during your harder movements, the difficult sections. Now I understand they're not obstacles, they're just necessary parts of the whole. I fell in love with every different movement, not just the easy parts, the difficult sections too, the ones that took real effort to actually understand. I don't want the simple version now, not after knowing this complicated one. I want every layer, every shift, every part of you that isn't easy to summarize. People asked how I put up with how complicated you could be. Sometimes I never understood the question, honestly. The complication was the whole appeal. Anyone can love something simple, something immediately easy to grasp. Loving something this layer required actually paying attention, actually staying. I still find new sections of you I hadn't fully noticed before, honestly. Even after years, you're still revealing movements I didn't know were there. I don't think I'll ever finish learning the whole arrangement completely, and I've stopped needing the whole picture all at once. I used to think loving someone meant fully understanding them eventually. Now I think it might just mean staying through every section, understood or not. You'll never be simple, never be one easy note I can hum without thinking. And I've stopped wanting that, stopped wanting anything less complicated than you. I fell in love with every different movement, not just the easy parts, the difficult sections too, the ones that took real effort to actually understand. I don't want the simple version now, not after knowing this complicated one. I want every layer still, every shift, every part that isn't easy to summarize. There's a new movement starting now, one I haven't heard before, and I'm listening still after everything, still completely fascinated. I felt to pay for anything actually started, some quiet anticipation. Walking into rooms where I knew you might be before we'd even spoken properly. My body seemed to know something my mind hadn't caught up to yet. Some kind of readiness building slowly before there was anything to be ready for. Nobody else noticed anything happening. There was nothing to notice yet. Just me quietly bracing for something I couldn't have explained if asked. Something was gathering before either of us said it out loud. Weeks of almost, weeks of near misses, weeks of building toward a start. I didn't rush, it didn't force the actual beginning to happen faster. Just let the waiting do whatever waiting does before something finally arrives. We had a dozen conversations that were almost about something bigger. Circling close, pulling back, circling closer. Again the next time we talked, I think we both felt it. That quiet gathering pressure underneath. Neither of us ready yet to name what was clearly already happening. I don't regret the waiting, actually. Don't wish we'd rushed any of it. Something about that slow building made the eventual start feel more earned. Something was gathering before either of us said it out loud. Weeks of almost, weeks of near misses, weeks of building toward a start. I didn't rush, it didn't force the actual beginning to happen faster. Just let the waiting do whatever waiting does before something finally arrives. I think about that stretch of anticipation more than almost anything after. That specific tension of knowing something significant was quietly approaching. There's a particular kind of hope in that waiting, unlike any other kind. Hope that hasn't been disappointed yet, hasn't had the chance to be. Nothing after quite matched the quality of that specific anticipation. Not because what came after was lesser, just because beginnings only happen once. I miss that feeling sometimes more than I miss most of what came later. That particular quiet gathering right before everything actually started. Maybe the waiting was its own complete thing, worth remembering on its own terms. Not just a means to an ending, but a whole season worth honoring separately. I used to think only the actual relationship mattered, not the build-up to it. Now I think the anticipation deserves its own careful, grateful memory too. Something was gathering before either of us said it out loud. And I don't think I properly appreciated how rare that quiet build-up was. I didn't rush, it didn't force the actual beginning to happen faster. And I'm grateful now for every single slow, uncertain, hopeful week of it. I feel that same gathering sometimes now, with someone new, cautiously. And this time I know exactly what to call it, exactly what it might become. I didn't know I needed somewhere to just stop performing completely until I found your spare room, the one with the door that actually closed. Nobody expected anything from me, and there no version I had to maintain. Just four walls and permission to exist, exactly as tired as I actually was. I used to think safety meant nothing bad could happen anywhere near me. You taught me it could just mean somewhere I was finally allowed to be honest. You gave me somewhere to fall apart without an audience keeping score. A door that closed, a bed that didn't ask questions, time that wasn't tracked. I don't think you ever knew how much that room actually saved me. Just space, just quiet, just permission. Stop holding everything together. I stayed longer than I meant to, longer than either of us probably expected. You never made it feel like a burden, never mentioned a time that we're leaving. I think that's what actually let me heal faster than I would have alone. The absence of pressure, the absence of a clock counting down my welcome. I've tried to build spaces like that for other people since when I can. Understanding now exactly how rare and necessary that kind of shelter is. You gave me somewhere to fall apart without an audience keeping score. questions, time that wasn't tracked. I don't think you ever knew how much that room actually saved me. Just space, just quiet, just permission. Stop holding everything together. I have my own place now, stable, built mostly because of that time you gave me. I keep a spare room too, actually empty on purpose, ready if anyone needs it. I don't know if anyone will ever use it the way I used yours, but I like knowing it's there. The same quiet offer you once made to me. I visited you last year, saw that same spare room mostly unchanged. Sat in it for a minute just to remember exactly what it gave me back then. You asked if I was okay, and for the first time in years I actually meant it. Yes, completely, largely because of the shelter you built for me here. I used to think refuge had to be dramatic, had to be far away, exotic. You taught me it could just be a spare room, ordinary, close, completely available. Not an escape from my actual life, just a pause inside it, temporary. Exactly what I needed, exactly when I needed it, without ever asking for credit. You gave me somewhere to fall apart without an audience keeping score. And I don't think I've ever properly thanked you for what that actually meant. I don't think you ever knew how much that room actually saved me, but I'm telling you now, finally, completely, how much it mattered. A spare room still there, still empty, still waiting for whoever needs it. I learned that from you, and I'm passing it forward quietly the same way. Every morning is just there again. No memory of yesterday's failures, covering everything fresh like the grass gets to start over completely. I used to wake up already exhausted, already carrying yesterday forward. Now I watch the morning cover everything clean and try to do the same. Nobody taught me that beginners could just show up automatically, that I didn't have to earn a fresh start. It just arrives quiet, unearned. It doesn't remember what happened here yesterday, doesn't hold a grudge, just settles in fresh, covers everything equal, gives the whole yard a clean start. I'm trying to wake up like that now, trying to actually let go overnight, instead of carrying every hard day forward into the ones that follow. I go outside early sometimes now just to watch it happening. This quiet, unglamorous proof that renewal doesn't need permission. It's not dramatic, not a big gesture, just moisture settling gently. But something about watching it convinces me I can start over too. I used to think healing needed a clean break, a clear before and after. This taught me it could just be small, repeated ordinary mornings instead. It doesn't remember what happened here yesterday, doesn't hold a grudge, just settles in fresh, covers everything equal, gives the whole yard a clean start. I'm trying to wake up like that now, trying to actually let go overnight, instead of carrying every hard day forward into the ones that follow. I knew it's gone, evaporated like it was never even there, but it comes back the next morning anyway, faithful, unbothered by disappearing. I think that's the actual lesson hiding in all of this, honestly. That renewal isn't a one-time event, it's something that just keeps showing up. I don't always manage it, some mornings I still wake up heavy, still carrying yesterday's weight, despite the fresh start sitting right outside. But I'm getting better at noticing the invitation, at least, even on the heavy mornings, even when I can't fully accept it yet. Maybe I don't need to fully renew every single day to be doing this right. Maybe just noticing the offer, even without taking it, still counts for something. The grass gets covered fresh, whether I appreciate it or not, faithfully. And maybe that consistency is the actual lesson, more than any single morning. It doesn't remember what happened here yesterday, doesn't hold a grudge, and I'm learning slowly to treat my own mornings that same patient way. I'm trying to wake up like that now, I'm trying to actually let go overnight, and some mornings, finally, it's actually starting to work. day am I? You saw something in me I hadn't noticed myself yet. Pointed it out casually, like it was obvious, like everyone could see it. I argued at first, told you I wasn't actually like that. You just kept holding the observation steady, until I finally looked too. Nobody had ever described me that specifically before, like they'd actually been paying attention, instead of just glancing past. You lit up a part of myself I didn't know was there in the dark. Held the light steady until I finally recognized it as mine. I became someone different after knowing you honestly. Not because you changed me, just because you helped me finally see myself. You mentioned things I did without noticing, small patterns, kindness I dismissed, strength I never once given myself credit for. It felt strange at first, being seen that clearly, that specifically, like you had access to some version of me I've been keeping hidden even from myself. I started believing the things you saw, slowly, cautiously started trying them on, testing whether they actually fit. You lit up a part of myself I didn't know was there in the dark. Held the light steady until I finally recognized it as mine. I became someone different after knowing you honestly. Not because you changed me, just because you helped me finally see myself. I carry that clearer picture for now, even without you here. Still access the parts of myself you pointed toward. Still trust them. I don't need you physically present to keep seeing myself that way. You already handed me the light, and I know now how to hold it myself. I try to do that for other people now, notice the hidden parts, point them out gently the way you did, patient without demanding they believe me right away. I think that might be one of the most important things anyone can do, just holding the light towards someone until they finally trust what it shows them. I used to think self-knowledge had to come from inside alone. You taught me sometimes it takes someone else's eyes to find the parts you'd stop looking for yourself. Stop believing we're actually there, not creating something new, just illuminating what was always quietly true. You lit up a part of myself I didn't know was there in the dark, and I still carry that light, still see myself that way. Even now I became someone different after knowing you honestly, and I'm grateful permanently for everything you helped me finally see. I see myself clearly today, the way you first pointed toward. Still grateful, still carrying the light you handed me, still looking. Every room romanticizes sunrise and sunset, write songs about the edges. Nobody talks about the middle of the day, the flat, bright, unremarkable hour. I used to rush through it too, impatient for the more dramatic light, until I started noticing what actually happens when the sun sits directly overhead. There's nowhere to hide in that kind of light, no long shadows, no soft edges, just everything exactly as it actually is, fully visible, completely exposed. I stopped waiting for the golden hours to feel like something worth having, started finding meaning in the plain, unfiltered middle of the day instead. Noon doesn't slatter anything, doesn't soften what it's looking at, and somehow that honesty became the thing I trusted more than the pretty light. We had our hardest conversations at noon, not at night, not at sunset. Something about that flat, honest light made it harder to perform, to hide. I think we both said truer things, standing in that unglamorous brightness, than we ever managed during any other more atmospheric hours. I used to think important moments needed better lighting, needed drama. Now I think the most honest ones probably happen in the least flattering light. I stopped waiting for the golden hours to feel like something worth having, started finding conversations at noon now, on purpose, deliberately. Something about that flat light keeps everyone a little more honest, a little less performed. It's not romantic, won't make anyone feel like they're in a movie, but it works better than any golden hour ever managed to for actual truth. I used to think the best light was always the most flattering kind. Now I trust the plain light more, the kind that shows everything exactly as it is. Noon taught me that honesty doesn't need atmosphere, doesn't need a filter. It just needs enough brightness to see clearly. Nothing hidden, nothing softened. Maybe I spent too long chasing the beautiful hours, the dramatic ones, missing the value sitting quietly in the middle of every single ordinary day. No, never asked to be remembered, never gets photographed, never trends, but it might be the most honest hour we actually get if we bother to notice it. I stopped waiting for the golden hours to feel like something worth having, and I started trusting the plain bright middle of the day instead. Completely. Noon doesn't flatter anything, doesn't soften what it's looking at, and that's exactly why I trust what happens in it more than anything else. It's noon again right now. Flat light, nothing dramatic about it, and for the first time it feels like exactly the right kind of honest.